Hello and welcome to another episode of Insider Focus, and today we're looking at all things Glasgow Rangers as their very busy transfer window continues to steamroll ahead. They obviously brought in Cyril Dessers, we'll talk about him shortly, but a lot going on at Rangers. The players currently out in Germany, the squad currently out there for a pre-season training camp. Everyone has gone along as you would expect, of course, and they expect to be making more signings before the end of the window, potentially another 4 coming in, as alluded to by manager Michael Beale. Before we get on and talk about that, though, please make sure you hit like and subscribe. It really helps us out, and we'll get on with the video. Of course, you've seen a very, very busy window for Glasgow Rangers so far during this summer. Still just under 2 months to go and plenty of time for them to bring in more players. Of course, that could mean that some leaving too. Who are they? We will have a look. They obviously have got Jack Butland in there, Dujon Sterling in there as well. Kieran Dowell's come in also. Then you look out front, they've got Lammers and they've brought in Sima and they've brought in Dessers as well. But there are, of course, many questions to be asked about some of the players in the squad who are still there and some who could potentially come in. Let's talk about Jose Cifuentes, because this is the player that Rangers fans really want to know. Is he coming? Where is he? Because he is quite an exciting signing for Rangers. There is no doubt about that. This is a player that was wanted by a lot of clubs, looked at by Brighton, which always suggests that he's got a bit about him, doesn't it? Leeds United were very keen on him as well when Victor Orta was at the club as the director of football. He's obviously now left for Sevilla to replace Monchi, who's gone to Aston Villa. So Rangers are looking at a player who has had top interest. Now, the state of play, to my understanding, is as follows. Rangers are in a strong position for landing him, of course, in a pre-contract deal in December. That's all but agreed. And Michael Beale alluded to that, didn't he, in a press conference where, when he was asked about it, he said December is a long way away. But there are talks ongoing, to our understanding, between LAFC and Rangers, or have been talks ongoing, about an early exit fee. Now, there are some reports that that's come closer. There's some reports that that's far away. And our understanding is it's actually just an ever-present, non-changing situation at the moment, almost in a state of stasis where the clubs have had that discussion, but there isn't much pressure on Rangers if they've got him nailed down on those personal terms in December. There's absolutely no doubt that Michael Beale and his staff would like him in the squad for summer. They'd like him in the team to come in, to gel, to learn the system, the style of play, and get a foothold on Scottish football as quickly as possible. But I think you've seen with Raskin and Cantwell, who both came into Rangers last January, that he could still make a difference. I think those two were key players for Rangers in the second half of last season. Of course, it didn't come to much fruition because Celtic won the treble, obviously, but they did make a significant difference to the side. You did see the rise in quality. Cantwell, in my opinion, will be one of the players in line for Player of the Year next season, depending on where Rangers finish in the league, etc. But he is certainly a signing that came in January and made an instant impact. So Cifuentes could, of course, still do that even if he doesn't arrive before then. So the state of play right now is Rangers are in a good position to get him on that pre-contract deal in December, and of course they could land him in summer if they can negotiate an early exit fee with LAFC, but there doesn't seem to be as much pressure around it as maybe as some are suggesting, and they're in a pretty strong position either way. As Rangers fans, would you rather they spent the money and got him now, or are you happy to see them, I guess, be more sensible with their budget and land him for free in January? Let me know in the comments below. Now, of course, centre-back's been a key area for the club to look at. Obviously an area that last season there was trouble, I think, for sure. Certainly they were struggling in a lot of defensive errors. John Souttar came in, has struggled with injuries, played okay at times, made that error in the Old Firm, of course, that was a shame. One of those errors that lots of centre-backs can make, a pass back that was short, right? Ben Davies came in and was maybe struggled at times, certainly not been hit the ground running very well, and as a player who could leave. He's on a very high wage, to my understanding, a wage that is one of the highest at Rangers, which might surprise a few people, and that could make getting him out the door difficult if Michael Beale is keen to sell him. Our understanding is they're open to selling Ben Davies in the summer. We'll wait and see how that goes, because selling him would make room for another centre-back. Now, of course, Jonathan Panzo has been spoken about a lot, hasn't he? At Nottingham Forest Football Club. Young player, only 22 years old. Dual national as well, England with Ivory Coast, but has represented England at all the unders levels. Contracted to 2025 at Nottingham Forest, and another one where there hasn't been any massive movement forward. Rangers absolutely in the conversation, absolutely have had talks over Panzo, and I would be keen to bring him in, but my understanding is it's still the same as it was 10 days prior, where that conversation hasn't moved forward. He also has lots of offers as well, to my understanding, lots of opportunities, not just Scotland, England as well, and round Europe. So Rangers aren't alone in their hunt and hope for Jonathan Panzo at the club. And that, of course, makes things difficult depending on who those other clubs are. But Rangers do have Champions League football potentially if they qualify. They do have European football guaranteed, of course, if they get the Europa League instead. And then, of course, playing in front of 50,000. Other players would have seen how players have done up in Scotland and gone on from there. The likes of Bassey and Aribo, of course. So maybe players see it as an opportunity to kickstart and get a move on in future. I think that's the reality of Rangers and Celtic right now. The sad reality of Rangers and Celtic right now for us Scots and football fans and Rangers and Celtic fans is they are selling clubs. They have to buy to sell. And they can offer players the opportunity to kick on and then recoup a good fee for them. Like Todd Cantwell's career kind of went like that, didn't it? But if he can play extremely well at Rangers for the foreseeable future, that value that was around him in the past will start to rise up again and people will start to take more interest, and you could see him move for a good fee for Rangers considering how little they obviously got him for. So yes, it is a very good opportunity to get someone like Panzo in, but there's a lot of clubs in that race. Is he the man for you? There's obviously been other centre-backs mentioned as well. Let me know what you think about Jonathan Panzo. Certainly a player that Michael Beale is absolutely keen on. Another Chelsea youth product as well, which we've seen with the likes of Dujon Sterling as well. It's something that Michael Beale has looked at. That's the kind of connections that he's been using throughout this window. And Michael Beale obviously has been doing all the deals, hasn't he? He's been the man behind them. Ross Wilson leaving for Jonathan Panzo's club, Nottingham Forest. Funnily enough, Rangers will be negotiating with Ross Wilson over this player, which is quite an awkward thing, I guess, or a weird thing, I suppose, but a good relationship to have, a good connection. But Michael Beale, the man bringing in his players, which is a good sign, I think. The manager knows the players he wants. He's identified them that fit his system, and they are working on that. Borna Barisic is a new deal. We're expecting that. Talks have been ongoing over a new deal for the Croatia left-back as well. Not an area we expect any change. Ridvan Yilmaz set to stay. Constant rumours from Turkey that he's going to leave, but Yilmaz set to stay is our understanding. Nothing major happening there, and Barisic getting that new deal. Some reports of Saudi Arabia interest in Tavernier. Not something that we can concretely say yes or no to at this point in time. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Saudi Arabia are not messing about. Steven Gerrard, of course, worked with Tavernier. He's obviously at Al Ettifaq now. They do have interest in a number of players in Scotland, as we've previously reported. But I think it would take a big fee to sell James Tavernier from Rangers. A big fee to get him out of the club. Would you take it, Rangers fans? If 15 to 20 million pounds was offered, would you take it for the Rangers captain? I'm not sure Rangers would, but would you? Let me know in the comments below. Now, of course, the attacking options at Rangers have been something that has massively changed. You've seen Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent, two stalwarts of the club for the last few years, 7 years or so, leave. They have both gone. Ryan Kent has signed up at Fenerbahce. You're going to find out about Alfredo Morelos in the coming weeks. He's been on holiday, taking his time and mulling over 5 or 6 offers at this point in time, so you'll hear about his future. But they brought in Cyril Dessers recently, of course, from Cremonese, a man that is more, I think, refined and accomplished than the others there, into his prime years, a player that the club have looked at since Michael Beale was there with Gerrard, so about 5 years in the making, this deal, and he has now joined Rangers, a man that's certainly got the fans on side, saying all the right things, but at the end of the day, it comes down to one thing if you're a striker, that is putting the ball in the back of the net. Celtic have had a lot more firepower up front. They've been a lot more ruthless when they've come to the boxes and creating chances and taking those chances, with the likes of Kyogo, who's signed a new deal, obviously, at Celtic. So Rangers need to make sure they've got men in who are going to put the ball in the back of the net when the opportunity arrives. Lammers has also arrived as well from Atalanta, and then we talked about Sima as well coming in from Brighton. But what about Antonio Kolak, another player who, of course, started on fire at Rangers. He scored 18 goals in the league, don't forget, but was replaced by Alfredo Morelos when Michael Beale came in. Michael Beale didn't fancy him. He didn't fit the way he played for whatever reason. He is more of a box striker, a Giovanni van Bronckhorst striker for crosses coming in and being in the box, the fox in the box, to put the ball in the back of the net at 6 yards, whereas Michael Beale does demand a bit more from his players to come and drop deep, to play out wide, to drop into spaces. And maybe Kolak doesn't have that in the locker in the eyes of the manager, Michael Beale. There is major interest in Kolak in Germany. That's something that I think you could see over the next couple of weeks start to really push forward. I think his exit would then allow that lever for Rangers to go for Danilo. We've spoken about him a lot Rangers fans, you obviously really want him at the club. A striker who has got bags of talent, obviously. Bags of ability. Contracted to Feyenoord until 2026. Only 24 years old. Has played up front, but also dropped off into that 10 position as well and played in there. And we know a player Rangers had some talks about previously. They couldn't find an agreement with Feyenoord. There was some distance between the understood value of Danilo between clubs. And that was one that Rangers have stepped back from at this point in time, is our understanding. This wouldn't surprise me if you see this come at the end of the window, if it moves forward towards the middle of August, for example, because Rangers have sold some players. Look at Kamara as well, potentially leaving a lot of interest in him too. So that would fund the ability for Rangers to go and get someone like a Danilo, because it's not going to be a small outlay. Feyenoord value him at around €8 million. Rangers have obviously spent a good whack on Lammers, on Dessers as well. So that would be another one. You'd have a fee for Cifuentes if he was to get that early exit fee sorted in the summer as well. And this would be around another £6 million signing in the door potentially for Rangers. A very good player, 24-year-old Brazilian star, an area of the footballing world that Michael Beale knows well is Brazil. Obviously, he worked there, didn't he? He trained and got better there. That's where he kind of honed his craft. He's a Corinthians academy prospect and would be a real kind of star signing for Rangers. Someone I think would bring a lot of excitement. But I think if you look later in the window, this is one where we will see whether it's going to happen or not. And that for sure would be something that Rangers fans would love to happen. Just look at social media. They're asking the club every 5 minutes to bring him in. One thing we can say is Luis Palma will not be joining Rangers, the Honduras winger. We knew that that wasn't going to happen for a couple of weeks now. It's not exactly breaking news, but just to nail that down. Certainly so much going on at Ibrox at this point in time. It makes for a really intriguing season. I'm really intrigued to see what happens next year. Michael Beale has got to prove himself, of course. He's got to stop Celtic. There is no choice in the matter now. They've obviously won a treble, won 2 leagues in a row. Brendan Rodgers has come in. He's going to have a good budget to spend at Celtic Football Club. They're going to spend a lot in the next month or so in the window as well. So it's a big season ahead, an interesting one. Let me know in the comments below how you think Rangers are shaping up, how you think Celtic fans, I know you'll be watching this, are shaping up towards this season. Do you think it's going to be Rangers title, Celtic title? Let me know how you're feeling. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.